whoa, slow down. We're going to get to that in a second. What I'm talking about today is recording electric guitars in a home setup. I've got 3 different methods to help you get started on your journey of recording electric guitars. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then why don't you join me today in the studio? Hey there, I'm Dan, the self-proclaimed lonely rocker. Welcome to this episode of I Don't Have a Band. I'm really excited about this episode because I get to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's recording electric guitars in a home setup. This is the reason why I started my studio in the first place, and I've since fallen deep down the rabbit hole. It's a topic for another day. But what I want to do is share 3 different methods to help you learn how to record guitars in your own home setup, and I've got them listed here somewhere. Oh, here we go. Now, if you don't have an amplifier, you can plug in direct and utilize amp sims, or if you've got an amp and you want to mic that, that's how I started my studio. We're going to look at that. And my preferred method of recording these days is a tube amplifier through a DI setup. Now, the one constant with all 3 of these recording methods is we need an audio interface. Now, there are devices that allow you to plug into your computer via USB, and it's sort of all plug and play. I'm not really interested in those methods. The idea here is we want to record guitars that can be utilized in a mix if you're creating your own music or you're collaborating with other people. So, the interface that I'm showcasing today is the iD4 Mkii from Audient. Now, the reason I'm showing you this interface is this is a very inexpensive interface, but it offers all the features that we need to record great guitars. It's also portable, so a very, very flexible device. I'm going to show you don't need a super expensive audio interface to create really great sounding guitars. So let's dive into that track that I teased at the opening. In this song, I utilize all 3 recording methods for guitars. So I'm going to give you an idea what they sound like. I'm going to show you the signal chains in the video, again, just to give you a rough idea. And on the other side, I'm going to discuss the nuances of each one to see which one might be best suited for you in your current situation. Careful, don't drop that guitar, but if you've got a free hand, perhaps you'd consider clicking the like button. It goes a long way to supporting this channel, and I really appreciate that. Of course, you can leave a comment, you can share this video, and ultimately, if you like what I'm doing here, you can click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. If you want to do a deeper dive with me, I am the Lonely Rocker, and I'm on Patreon. I'll link that down below. All right, let's get back to recording guitars. So before I dive into the 3 recording methods, there's 3 rules that you got to burn into your brain. Now, the first one's going to seem like common sense, but tune your guitar. I admittedly had some minor tuning issues in that song I just showed you, and trying to fix it in mix is not an ideal situation. So check your tuning every time before you record. You may be working out your parts and you were in tune and you might have gone out of tune just practicing. So double check your tuning before you lay down any of your tracks. The second thing is recording level. It's really, really important, especially in the digital domain, because digital clipping is just not favorable. Now, when you're recording distorted guitars, you might not even notice it, but that digital clipping is going to do something to your tone that you're just not going to be able to repair later on. Now, this iD4 interface has a convenient view meter right on the device. nice. Not all interfaces at this price point will have that, but they'll all have a clip warning. If you see a red light flashing, it means you're peaking way too loud. You got to bring down those levels. You definitely have to keep track of that in your DAW. Between -18 and -12, I call that safely in the green. That's more than enough signal to shape really good tones. You don't need to be louder than that. Old analog gear, tube preamps, things like that, it's good to drive them to get favorable saturation and distortion, but that's not the case with digital interfaces because digital clipping is just not favorable. So just keep an eye on those levels. Very, very important. And the last thing I'm going to say, if you're recording tracks that you want to utilize in some kind of mix, don't record with your effects on. Tone shaping, absolutely. Distortion, you want to EQ it, whatever you do to get that tone, 100%. But especially delays, modulation effects, things like that, reverbs, if you record with those on, you're going to limit the possibilities of what you can do in the mix. But I highly recommend you record with your effects off and you can process those effects in the mix. So I'm going to start with the simplest way to record an electric guitar. You don't even need an amplifier. You just need your guitar, a patch cord, and your audio interface. It's super easy to set up. What's key with this method is that your interface needs to have an instrument input, sometimes called a high Z or high impedance input. These inputs are designed specifically for guitars and basses to record direct. This ID4 has a JFET instrument input. This simulates the input stage of a tube amp. It gives you a great signal going in. But whatever interface you decide to grab, make sure it has an instrument input. Once connected to your computer, you simply select the corresponding input in your DAW and you will hear the clean signal coming from your guitar. From there, you can apply your favorite amp sim plugin. If your DAW doesn't have any built in, there are so many inexpensive amp plugins. You might even be able to find some free ones. But this is a great way to record because you can apply your amp tones after the fact and even change them after you record. It's a great way to learn what you like. Even pros who record real amps often take a direct signal from the guitar in case they want to reamp it later. So learn your direct recording game early as it will apply later on. Now the most traditional way of recording an electric guitar is with some sort of amplifier, whether it's a combo like this or a head-in cabinet. You've got a microphone, and that microphone is going to run into your audio interface and then into your computer. Now if you're going to record this way, there are some considerations to consider. Recording an amp is an art form, but you can practice these basic principles. The most common type of microphone for this application is a dynamic microphone like this SM57. If you use a condenser mic, then you will need phantom power to supply the current necessary for the mic to operate. Most interfaces can provide the power necessary to power condenser microphones. Just engage the 48-volt switch. Connect your microphone to your interface via the mic input and turn on the corresponding channel in your DAW. Nothing is going to alter your tone more than the placement of the microphone. Placing the mic closer to the center of the speaker will give you a brighter tone. The closer you get to the outer edge of the speaker, the darker the tone will be, and you have varying degrees in between. Now, if this is the way that you're going to record, there's something that you're going to have to consider if you're working in a home environment, especially if you don't have a way to isolate the amplifier, because the tone that you're getting in the room is not what you're going to be recording. It's going to be very, very different. So you can't really do that in real time unless you have some way of getting this amp out of the room so you just can't hear it. Now, what I would do is I would set up a day where I could test the amp. I would record with the microphone in different positions, and then I would mark which one was which, and I would listen to the playbacks after to determine which one was working. It's a bit of extra work, but you can do the workaround if you don't have an isolation booth. But once you find those tones, you can get some really, really great guitar tones this way. So the last method I want to talk about today is a very popular way to record electric guitars these days. That's taking a tube amp and recording direct. Now that involves an extra piece of gear like this 2 Notes Audio Engineering Torpedo captor, but this allows you to take the signal out of the amplifier and go line level into the computer. Now for that to work, your amplifier needs to have a speaker output. All heads will have that feature, but if you have a combo amp, you want to make sure that the amp actually has a speaker out. Some do, some don't, but you need that speaker out to make this method work. This method of recording is super easy to set up, but it requires some extra equipment. I use a Torpedo captor from 2 Notes. This is a load box, DI, and speaker simulator all in one. You take the speaker out from your amp with a speaker cable and plug it directly into the speaker in on the captor. This device manages the load from the amp, very necessary with tube amps. and converts the signal to a line level that you can plug right into the line input of your interface. Actually, you'll find the 2Notes technology inside the Audient Sono. That's a guitar interface. In fact, that's how I connected with Audient in the first place. My good buddy Mike at Creative Sauce did a review, and he invited me to play some guitar for that review. So I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. Depending on the device you are using, it may have a speaker simulator on board, and it certainly will have the ability to turn it on or off. If not, you will need some sort of speaker simulation in your DAW known as a cabinet impulse response, or cab-IR for short. Without the cab simulation, the amp sounds like this. But with cab simulation, it sounds like this. I have a video that does a deeper dive on this type of recording, so I'll make sure to link that in the description. Well, there you have the 3 methods for recording electric guitar, all effective, and in fact, you can utilize all 3 as I did in that track. It all depends on what you're trying to do. There's a method that will suit your needs and your budget, and that's why it's so great to be recording music today. There's just so many options. The one thread, the consistent thread through all 3 is that you do need an audio interface, and now that you have the basic understanding of how the 3 methods work, hopefully that'll help you decide on the type of audio interface that you'll need to record your electric guitars. Well, that's what I've got. I certainly hope you've enjoyed this video. I definitely want to hear from you and know where you are in your recording journey. Just use the comment section for that. And at the very least, use one of the engagement options. It really encourages me to make more content just like this, and I really, really do appreciate that. But most importantly, I hope I'm going to see you again in another video. I'm going to give you a couple of options right now. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like button and/or leaving a comment. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. There are a lot of great musical projects you can do by yourself right from your own home. I hope to see you again in another video.